We had snow here a couple of days ago.
The
That's
hell?
still the
Don't you
time
live
of
in
year.
like Nevada or something?
Yeah, I live in the mountains. Reno is at like 5,000 feet in elevation.
Yikes.
So, um, yeah, we just had snow a few days ago. It snowed quite a bit over the course of like a day and a half, where it was like like every couple of hours it would start snowing really hard again. So we're definitely not out of that weather yet. But obviously, very different being in the mountains than like in the Willamette or I don't know what kind of weather Nate lives in. I've never been to West Virginia. I don't know what to say about that, but
West Virginia.
other than that, I
How long
suppose.
can
Um,
we keep talking about weather?
do you live in Reno proper, like the city, or do you live on the outskirts?
I don't know who that question's directed at.
Do you live in Reno?
Okay.
Yeah, I live
Yeah.
in Reno.
It's probably directed to the person who lives in Reno.
Well, you
You
didn't
didn't
say that in
say
your first
Reno.
question, Aaron. Exactly.
You
You
Yeah,
just
I
didn't say
did.
Reno.
Well, okay, maybe I cut out or something. I said, do you live in Reno proper? Like the city?
Oh, I heard you say, "Do you live in the
Verbatim.
city
I have
proper?"
the.
No, I don't. I live in West Virginia.
Son of a bitch. West Virginia. Um, I'm
We're
gonna
gonna
be
get
moving here soon.
Again?
again.
Yeah, so as much as I love my mother, I don't love living with her. Uh,
Valid.
and a couple of my family members, my cousin Nate and my younger brother Jason, and then also my sister Natasha, were floating an idea about, finding a four-bedroom house in Longview, which is like the nearest Walmart-sized town to us. So yeah, probably gonna do that.
Another
Nice.
American metric.
Exactly, it all looks the same, monochrome gray,
We'll measure
Oh,
in
fast
that's
food
kind of cool.
anything.
places.
That's like a setup for a sitcom. I love it.
I'm looking forward to it. Not looking forward to the commute, but because
Oh,
I'm
because you're
definitely going to
keeping the
keep my
same job,
job.
of course.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I'm considering like looking to transfer to a different, elementary school or, any school in general, but that stuff is always sketchy. Like what if I don't like the students, you know, or the staff members, all that kind of stuff.
So if you go to Longview, how much of a commute will it be to where you are now?
About 30 minutes if there's no
Oh,
road work,
okay.
but like you said, 'tis the
If it ain't
season,
raining.
so yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's
They're
not bad.
opportunists.
That's what I do to school right now is 35 minutes one way. It's not, I mean, I don't love it, but, especially if you have like a shorter commute and then you have to transition to having a half an hour commute.
Yeah, I mean, I already drive. We live like 8 minutes ish out of town, depending how
Oh.
fast you go. The cops around here are like vultures. They're just always waiting to catch you
Dude, same
whacking.
here. There's like 12 cops that patrol downtown Martinsburg. It's like they're just lurking around every corner, just chilling. It's actually crazy for a relatively small town. Just for a relatively small town, it's pretty shocking.
How big is the town?
I want to say like 30,000.
Damn.
I could be I'm going to look it up cuz I could be 100% wrong.
Is there a way that you could be not 100% wrong but also not right about something like that?
Come
What's
again?
that mean? Like
What?
70%? Yeah, what?
Yeah, like how could you if you're like if you gave a guess on like a population and you're like, well, I could be 100% wrong, but like could you be 70% wrong or like 30% wrong? Like I feel like either you're 100% wrong or right.
So,
Well,
the
that's what he said, right? I
population
could be.
I
in
know, but
2020 the
saying it that
population
way.
was 18,000. So,
Nobody
I'm
cares
pretty sure
anymore,
that's
Nate.
like 100% wrong.
You were 100% wrong. Yeah, good job.
Actually, no, so 100% wrong would be so you could be 50% wrong if my guess was 50% higher or lower than the actual number, right?
I
But
think
you're
we would have
still
to specify
100% wrong.
beforehand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're still 100%
So
wrong on the actual number you gave.
So that's what I said though. I was like, to make sure I said I could be 100% wrong.
Right.
That's a
But
valid statement,
phrasing
then,
it
right?
that
If we're
way
establishing
implies
that
that
being
you could be
wrong is
less than
100% wrong.
Yeah, but phrasing
What
it
if
that
we try
way.
a fun exercise where we all speak at the same time?
I was just gonna say, I feel like our delay is so much worse than the past.
I feel like there's just like a lack of morals and a real need to speak over one another.
Maybe, but yeah, that's the thing about recording remotely is you kind of have to start because there is at least somewhat of a delay. You kind of have to start your sentence like you have to speak confidently, or else everyone's just kind of like, "What? Oh, you know."
We
And so
need
then
like a
if everyone
virtual talking stick. We'll
sharing
pass
pillow.
around. What?
Well, that's why I was thinking it might have been helpful. I mean, we don't have to do it this time, but if we had a video component, not that we have to record the video to put out, but because then you have the visual cue of you can see if somebody's about to say something, which you don't
I'm
have.
raising my hand.
Or, well, not that dramatic, but you know. That'd be like a Teams meeting where you have to click the little hand raise button.
I mean, we could try it, but like
I'd
I
have
don't
to
know if
buy
that
a
helps.
webcam and whatnot.
Well, I'm not saying it this time, but I'm saying maybe in the future that would help because then you could kind of see if somebody was starting to talk and you wouldn't just keep going. I don't know. It's a thought.
I ain't stopping for nothing.
Fair enough.
There's like a
Do you?
I
freight
don't care
train.
how ridiculous. Get out of the way if you know what's good for you.
Aaron is feeling the spring break already.
I really am. Oh my goodness. Sunshine.
Did you say
Is there
sun?
anything new for you guys? Yeah, sunshine. The opposite of rain.
Okay.
Are they 100% opposites though?
Oh my goodness. I mean, what is rain? What is sunshine?
Because sunshine is photons and vitamin D.
Okay, and then also, what's the concept of opposite?
I mean, what's the concept of wrong, Aaron?
Me.
Well, earlier was Nate. Nate's been the most
No,
wrong so
earlier
far.
my opinion was wrong.
That wasn't an opinion. It
My
was a
opinion
guess.
was
Your
Aaron.
opinion? Yeah, what? Yeah.
Your opinion.
That was
You
my
are
opinion.
yet
It's an
again
opinion.
100% wrong again.
That's what a guess is. It's an opinion. It's my opinion about what I think the truth is.
Okay, so what did you guys... Oh wait, should we do an intro?
We probably should.
Yeah, great. That's great. Why don't you lead it off, Aaron? I feel like I always have to do it. You did the segue.
He's Nate.
I'm Nate.
She's Karina, and I'm Aaron.
And
Well,
this
okay.
podcast
Maybe
is
the
limited
Discord
to
takers
everything.
for that.
We're keeping that.
I hope so.
Karina, what'd you watch? What have you been watching this weekend? This past month?
I have started watching the show Dark on Netflix.
Is that
I
the
don't know.
German one?
Yeah.
So I got through all of season 1 and I just started season 2 and it's very, very good. So it sounds like both of you have seen it. So I guess I can't recommend it
Nope.
to you, but to the audience I can recommend it.
I think you
I know of
just
it.
got a you just got a negative response from both of us on that, Karina.
Oh, okay. Well, both of you were like,
100% wrong.
oh, okay. All right. 100% wrong. Well, I will not spoil anything, but I will say that like it's very compelling and just the way the story is written. Like there's a lot of there's time travel and a lot of weird interconnected stuff. In some ways, this might not be the best way to explain it, but in some ways it kind of reminds me of Stranger Things, but like a much more mature, serious like intense version of it. Um, so I don't know. Like I know Nate likes Stranger Things. I don't know Aaron if you do, but like if you like that, then you would definitely like this. But I think you'd probably like it way better because I love it so far. So it's got a lot of interesting, mysterious components to it. And then also, I just recently, just a couple days ago, I was telling Nate this. I watched the 2016 mini series for War and Peace, so that was also good.
Are you watching Dark, subbed or dubbed?
Subbed. I don't like
Good
dubbed.
on ya. What about you, Nate?
I let's see. I'm trying to think. I don't think I watched any. I don't think I watched any movies. I did watch season 1 of Pantheon
Oh,
on
hell
Aaron's
yeah.
recommendation. It was fine. I didn't love it. I was a little bit disappointed in some aspects. Um, oh, did somebody just drop? Did I just drop?
I'm just kidding. No, I I left as a joke.
Oh.
Aaron has left the chat. That's funny. Um, no, it just
I could see that.
the plot is interesting. The plot is interesting. The concept definitely is interesting, but the characters were not that interesting, and a lot of them felt very similar to one another, and like they didn't have a lot of development. There were a couple characters that definitely did, but the majority of them felt pretty like they had pretty flat arc. They all kind of seemed like they were who they were at the end of the season 1, at least, compared to the beginning.
Yeah,
Um,
I can see that. Everybody except for the mom, maybe.
but yeah, maybe, and then like maybe Caspian's dad, kind of like he's an interesting character, right? Just
Oh,
because of the
right.
situation.
Yeah.
Um, but like I don't know. Apart from that, I just didn't find the. I guess I didn't find the plot that engaging. Again, maybe I'm comparing it in my head to Scavenger's Reign because that's I watched prior, and whereas that is like so just engrossing, and that didn't even really have a plot, but the show was so engrossing, and this one to me just feels a little flat. So I don't know, for whatever reason, it's like every time I would be like, oh, I should go watch another episode of Pantheon, it was like almost like I was making myself do
Oh,
it,
like a chore or something.
rather than like being excited to. So it's not that I hated it, otherwise I wouldn't watch it. I'm not a completionist. I'll stop watching something if I don't like it. But I didn't like it enough that I was like excited to keep coming back to it. So
You can't win them all.
I mean, I'm in a position where I'd probably still start giving season 2 a go and see if I like what it's doing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, season two addresses a lot of what you talked about, at least as far as like character growth and whatnot. The first like 3 or 4 episodes weren't to my taste, but uh, the ending of it is pretty cool.
And
Um,
there's some concepts that I really like.
yeah,
I
that's
like
yeah,
I like what it's messing with for sure. The concept of UI and just the global ramifications that has once it starts to become more commonplace.
yeah. That's what hooked me. That and the scene where the guy is getting his brain lasered. I like that. He
Dude,
starts to
that's
mumble.
and then
Spoke to me.
the scene right after where he's like it's kind of showing him stuck in a loop, kind of, where they're
Yeah,
controlling
because
his
there's just
environment.
yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting.
definitely the concepts carry the show.
Yeah.
I haven't been watching much of anything. I'm trying to think.
Well, I mean, you don't get to watch Netflix at work constantly anymore, so.
No, not really. I have to watch kids scream and whatnot. Uh, I have been watching a little bit of Pantheon again because my little brother is in town, so I've been forcing that down his gullet. Uh, I watched 3 episodes of Love, Death, and Robots.
Ayo.
Wow.
Yeah.
Somebody
Actually,
had
no,
to say
4.
it. 4. What was the first one you watched that you were like, eh?
Oh, so I watched Karina's episode. Why am I drawing a blank? Oh, The Swarm,
Swarm.
which I liked all the episodes we picked. They're all really cool and kind of have like the same theme of a completely alien intelligence and just uh they were all really dark and creepy. I loved them.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
definitely.
didn't even plan it that way.
Mm-mm.
Okay, Aaron,
Um,
as
oh, go ahead.
oh, but no, I was gonna say what you said you watched 4 episodes, so you watched hour 3. Was there
Oh,
another
and
one
then
you watched that you were like, I don't want to watch, I don't want to pick this one?
yeah, so I was just doing things in my room after I finished your episode, Bad Traveling or whatever it's called, and then so my TV just played the next one, and it was the one where it's the lady astronaut, and they're on
Oh,
like one of the moons or whatever.
It's
is
like the
that
So
the one
I
she
like
like?
half
lunar.
watched it.
Is that the one where her consciousness kind of merges with the planet or something?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I remember that one. That one was interesting. Kind of, definitely feels like a trip the whole time.
Yeah, season 3 was a banger.
Yeah, I really think so. Actually, I like again, like Aaron, you already said it, but like I felt like all 3 of our episodes that we picked were all very entertaining.
Yeah, it was harder to choose for this season because there were so many that I was like, oh, I liked that one. I liked that one. I almost picked the one Aaron picked. That was my
hmm
second choice.
Okay, well, now we have to figure out which one we're gonna talk about first.
We could just go in order, which would be Nate, me, and then Aaron, or if there's some other way you want to rank them, we could do that.
Like in order of how the episodes aired or what?
Yeah, like that's the order they're in on the show.
Okay, fine. Let's talk about mine first then, because I think mine was the first one, right? So, bad traveling was my episode, which is uh, there's some ship out. I don't remember what the text says at the beginning of the show. I don't know if it explains what they're doing or why, but there's a ship out just on the ocean, and it gets attacked by a giant sentient crab-like creature, some kind of crustacean. Um, it kind of wreaks a little bit of havoc, and then it ends up below decks, and one of the guys goes down, well, draws the short straw, so to speak, and goes down to like kill it essentially, but he ends up making a deal with it because this crustacean wants to go to an island called Faden Island, and so the guy that goes down to kill him makes a deal essentially with this crustacean of sorts that like, okay, I'll take you there, but like you need to leave me alive because I'm like the only person that can run the ship or whatever. But then as they go, that like there's a handful of people still left alive, and they kind of start to turn against each other. And obviously there's distrust, and he kind of starts to take on a leadership role. And kind of the big thing is that he's like, well, we can't just take this massive murderous crab to this island because there's a bunch of people here. So probably it wants to go kill all of them. So we should go to a different island, and everyone kind of disagrees. And there's a lot of killing, and uh, there's a lot of like man versus man as well as man versus crab in this episode. Um, I just found it really, I found it really interesting for a couple of reasons. One reason is that I love anything that pits, that explores the psychology kind of of man when he's in a dire situation. So I love things like that. Actually, oh, so something else I've been watching, I forgot to mention this, is season 1 of The Terror, which is something I watched a few years ago, and I was kind of going back to watch it again just because I really enjoy it. And that's the same thing. It's about 2 ships trying to find the Northwest Passage, and they get ice locked, and they're stuck up there for years. And so it kind of starts to toy with like, what do people do in this situation? Like, how do people start to turn on each other? How do they react? And so this episode also, I feel like, kind of explores that, as well as it's just like has a very cool theme, you know, like a deep sea creature, monster of some sort attacking a ship. You know, I just love all that.
Yeah, it has a it had a little bit of like, obviously not like exactly, but almost felt like something that should be in Pirates of the Caribbean or something. Just this giant crab that's kind of sentient and murderous and a problem.
Yeah.
I
It's
did think
actually
it was.
interesting. There's,
Oh, go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say that the two of the three episodes. Wait, let me think through answers real quick. Uh, two of the three, well, all three of the episodes deal with possession of some sort. Two of the three episodes deal with some kind of being, directly using the motor functions of a human to
Right,
communicate with other
puppeting a
humans.
human,
Yeah.
hacking into their vocal cords somehow.
Yeah.
I know. I was thinking about that too because I remembered that like even before I had watched any of them, I knew that the one I picked had it, and then when I was watching yours, Nate, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that in this one, and I was like, ah, how funny. 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Like what you're talking about, the psychology of what do people do in dire situations. I also thought that was interesting in this one. Uh, I liked the mind games that he plays a little bit with the rest of the crew, where he tells them he
Yeah.
marked their ballots so he knew who voted what way. And then the reveal at the end where he's like, I didn't mark any of them. Every single one of you voted to go to the island with all of the people and just drop it there because it was the easiest. And it was like, yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's probably like, it's probably been said in a more eloquent way, but I know that that's kind of a common thought that gets expressed, is that put people in a stressful situation and then you're going to see their true colors. Like, what kind of person are they really?
Yeah. Well, there are a couple things that were weird. One is like this guy kind of just we don't know his role before the attack, because this episode starts like immediately with this crab attacking the ship. Like there is literally no build up. It's actually kind of odd. And we don't know like what his role is prior to the attack on the ship, but he assumes a role of command very quickly, and kind of has this thing where like he's sleeping in the captain's quarters now, and he like when they cast the votes, then the scene cuts and everyone's standing outside the captain's quarters except him, who's still in, and it's like there's a lot of trust there, kind of, right? It's just weird that he like steps into this role almost automatically. He
That
did. There
does
was a
help.
gun. He did have a gun.
Well, I think it's interesting too, because if you remember when they first are like drawing lots for who's going to have to go down and talk to him, it's the really big guy that draws the short straw, and then he flips it, like kind of flips the script and goes, okay, well now we've elected a leader, and so now
Yeah.
as your leader I'm going to choose who goes down, and he picks the guy who was having them all draw lots.
Mm-hmm.
So it is interesting that he's a little bit like he's resourceful if nothing else, if not a little bit scheming as well, because then yeah, we don't know his role, but definitely when he goes down and talks to the crab, he presents it as if he is the only one who can help the crab, and so therefore the alliance needs to be with him alone. And then he gets the key from one of the bodies that the crab had eaten, and then goes and gets the gun, and then becomes the leader. So he does kind of forcefully take command. I guess, probably because he's thinking about it as like, this is the only way I'm going to be able to even have a chance to get the outcome I want out of this.
Mm-hmm.
And it is an interesting, I guess, combination of things in him, because on the one hand, he's really adamant about he does not want to abide by the crab's wishes and take it to this inhabited island and let it kill a bunch of people, just because it would be easier and get him off the ship faster. But at the same time, he has absolutely no problem just like shooting people and feeding them to the crab. So it's an
This
interesting.
reminds me of the mindset that the operative, I think he's called, has in Serenity. which is the
Oh
Firefly
yeah.
follow-up film, where he's like, he does the dirty work to make a better world. He does the dirty work for the greater good. And then, there's a scene towards the end of that movie where Mal is like, you know, you're trying to create this perfect place, but you're a terrible person. How can you justify that? And the guy's like, oh, this perfect place is not for me. There's no place for me there because I'm terrible and I've done awful things. And he's like, I own up to that. I know that what I'm doing is awful, but this is for the benefit of other people. Right. And so to me, it's the same kind of mentality where he's willing to sacrifice a few lives, murder a few people, um, to ensure the safety of a lot of other people, which is a really weird situation to be in.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah, he starts to take this position of like, I am justice. Yeah, right? It's like he's like, well, I've decided that the decision all of you guys made, I gave you all a decision and I decided that the choice you all made was the wrong one, so you all don't deserve to live. Is pretty wild. Like, I feel like he has for such a short episode, I feel like we're given a quick, an interesting character arc for his character where he goes from like, okay, obviously very intelligent, but to all the way on the other end, he's just like murdering people because he thinks that because he doesn't agree with, the decisions that they've made. It happens very quickly.
Does he say, I can't remember in that scene where he has them all vote, does he say that they'll go with whatever the majority vote is, or does he just ask them to cast a vote to see what they think?
Technical difficulties.
Okay. Because that would be wilder
Yeah, I don't.
if he was like, oh yeah, we'll do whatever the majority vote is, and then everybody votes against him, and he's like, never mind.
Well, but then that maybe was his thing, where he's like, okay, this is a facade because I'm gonna have to feed the crab. Essentially, is probably what he's thinking. He's like, I'm gonna have to feed the crab, and so if I can present them with a divisive situation where some people choose one side and some people choose the other, then we can kill one side, and the other side's gonna be fine with that, right? And we can use that side as fodder for the crab. It just so happens that they literally all picked the option other than what he wanted to do, But if it had been like a half and half split, they still would have gone with what he wanted. He would have lied, even if the majority wasn't in his favor. He would have said it was, and then they would have killed. I'm assuming he would have killed the people that chose the other thing and used them as crab food.
Yeah, probably.
It's weird because the story's not about the crab, right? It's not about the monster at all. That's just like the mechanism by which they get to like present a group of people with this weird situation, or specifically one guy with a very weird situation that he has to navigate. And I want to see like 3 or 4 different reruns of this scenario where he makes different decisions. You know what I mean? Like that would be really interesting to see play out.
Like the Hitler episode, but with this.
I don't think I ever actually watched that episode. Like ever.
It is funny. It feels almost a little out of place with a lot of the rest of the show, I feel like.
I think that's maybe why I didn't even end up watching it. I was like, so many of these other episodes are so like dramatic and epic and cool, and this one seems kind of childish, so I just never watched it.
I think you'd enjoy it if you watched it. But it is definitely kind of in its own, I don't know. It's almost like a different genre of show, but it is, like Aaron said, it is funny. Like, I think you'd probably still enjoy it. It's not very long.
I should watch it actually because I like butterfly effect stuff. That concept is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole episode, is just looking at like different points in his life, like what if a different decision had been made, or if somebody had had a different kind of interaction with him, and then what happens moving forward. So you'd probably enjoy it. It is all butterfly effect stuff.
All right. Any finishing thoughts on Bad Traveling?
Technical difficulties.
Wait, what?
What?
Spell that out a little clearly. Like it hasn't been working the whole time?
Technical difficulties.
All right. Well, do you want to take a quick 5 and figure that out?
Technical difficulties.
Toy with it and see if you can fix it.
Well, yeah, make sure you say what you have, because if it had the first 20 minutes or so.
Check, check, check. All right, we're back.
All right,
That's
keep
not
an
too
eyeball on it.
Bad traveling, more like bad recording.
Let's mosey on over to whatever's next. I actually have no idea.
It's mine.
All right, Karina.
Um,
Give us one of your
Yeah, so the
infamous rundowns.
Infamous. Yours are
Oh,
infamous.
shit.
Mine are great. So the episode I picked was Swarm, and it is a scientist going to meet up with another scientist who has been studying this colony that lives in space of some kind of alien life form. They think that they are just some kind of they're not sentient, kind of a almost like a beehive type of setup where there's a queen and then there's different castes of not the other beings. So they have workers and warriors and scavengers and a variety of others. And the scientist goes because he is interested in harnessing their basically biological efficiency, and using it to advance the human race and make them more dominant in the universe, because he thinks that they could take, because it's an incredibly efficient system, I guess, the way that the colony, the swarm colony, operates. And so he wants to, I guess, like, genetically alter some of how their processing works so that they could be then bred to be workers or an army or something else like that humans could use. And initially he clashes with the scientist that's already been there living and working with them, who says that she's very anti that because it's exploitation and she doesn't want them to be enslaved. And he argues that they're not sentient, so would it really be enslavement, because they're not going to be longing for freedom, they're not going to be wishing for something else, they don't know any different, they're already doing this kind of work and labor within their colony already. So she agrees to help him, and they begin teaching these organisms a new set of codes, essentially, that will have them perform different tasks than what they currently do. And then something goes wrong, and he's captured by some of the warrior ones. They take him to a caste being that he hasn't seen before, who basically tells him, like, because you started meddling with our genetic code, there was like a preset code that was triggered to create that being, and it is designed to be intelligent and to help them fight back. And it basically explains to him, like, we've done this many, many times. We've been here for millions of years. Anytime that there's been another living group, intelligent group that has tried to conquer us or take us over or use us in some way, we basically just absorb and assimilate them, and they just become like these, it's almost like a parasitic relationship. And ends with that being saying, like, look, I think that humanity would be a great addition to the swarm because you guys are intelligent, but intelligence by itself is not a survival trait. And the scientist says that he'll accept it as a challenge because he doesn't believe humanity would ever allow themselves to be subjected in that way or overcome. And that's where it leaves off. So a lot of really interesting concepts in the episode. I think one of the things that stuck out to me most was basically, like, at the beginning, there's the scientist is talking to another alien race that's giving him a ride there. And he's talking, they're having a conversation about how it's been great getting to know each other and exchanging information, and, what a great relationship they have. And he doesn't understand, though, why the scientist wants to go look at the swarm. He says they're primitive and they're just a well-organized group of animals, essentially. And the guy goes, yeah, but humans will learn anywhere they can. Like, we're always looking for more knowledge. And kind of, I guess, to me, raises the question of, should we always go poking our noses into things? And, at what point is trying to learn more and doing research and gathering information good and helpful, and at what point does our hubris get in the way and could be potentially harmful, and like in an extreme situation like this could potentially cause the downfall of the entire human race.
Well, doesn't like the queen, no, not the queen, but like the thing that's created, doesn't it, like it says that, intelligence is not a survival trait, and it's in fact a can be a detriment, right? Like they've had like intelligence actually oftentimes causes the downfall of other races that the swarm has interacted with. So it's like something about intelligence is like you either, I mean, the thing that we all like always think about in applying this to modern day is like, we create things at this point that have the ability to kill everyone on the planet, right? And so it's like our intelligence has reached a point where we can create things that can essentially obliterate our entire race, right? So we're in the danger zone, to be sure.
Well, not just that, but like, because I mean, like we invented. I assume you're talking about like nuclear bombs
Yeah, right.
and like war in general, but stuff like inventing the car and all the, environmental impacts that's had from, the emissions to the fact that we had to cut up, the entire planet with roads and whatnot, uh, dividing ecologies and like just messing with nature a lot, uh, for this thing that probably seemed pretty benign when we invented it. Like,
Yeah.
how could it be a bad thing? We're gonna be able to travel more. And then not just that, uh, but like people really didn't. I mean, like we lived in cities, but it was just a different mode of living before we had the ability to travel like we do, and so there's so many unforeseen consequences of just the constant progress that we humans love to do.
I think that at some point in the episode, the intelligent thing makes some kind of comment about intelligence gets in the way of adapting to survive or something like that. Um, and that's why the swarm has been so successful, is because they continue to adapt. Um, and so it doesn't look like what humans, I guess, would consider intelligence or any kind of advancement, which are the things we value. But because we spend so much time focused on those things, that were held back from, yeah, putting those other systems or ideas into place that would allow us to be protected or to continue to survive against a variety of threats or outsiders or whatever the situation is. So it is
Well,
interesting to think of those as. Go ahead.
I guess the implication is that intelligence hampers the ability to evolve, right? Because this is coming from a being that is from a species that's just been evolving for millions of years and always evolves to adapt. So I guess the implication is that like once you're smart enough to avoid, you no longer have to adapt, right? And eventually something's going to come along that you can't avoid, and since you haven't been adapting, it's insurmountable.
Not just that, but like so evolution is super slow, right? Adaptation is a little bit faster, and then with humans, technology is super fast. Like we are
Mhm.
essentially the same people as we were, 2,000 years ago, in terms of our uh, bodies and brains and
Right. Yeah.
physiology. Yeah. Um, and yet we have all these, new gadgets and gizmos that, as far as we know, nobody else has ever had, and we just literally can't even think about the ramifications of using, smartphones and stuff all the time. We're just a bunch of monkeys with uh, technology that, yeah, we're just not adapted to, which I think is pretty interesting.
Well, I think it's interesting too because with the technology that we have, which has allowed us to do things like going to space and looking way beyond just the planet we live on. it does kind of open up the question of, you combine that with, if we're really just looking, like Nate said, to avoid things, and we don't think about actually adapting and being able to survive things. um, it makes it definitely makes it seem a lot riskier viewed through that lens, to then go and be projecting messages out into space, inviting other intelligent life forms to communicate with us or come visit us or something like that. Because it's like, if this is going out there in such a way that it can be received by a different intelligent life form, like, you don't know who's on the receiving end of that, and uh, what they're capable of, or what their intentions are, or anything like that. And you're definitely playing with fire if you have a complete unknown out there and you're inviting it to your house, essentially.
Have either of you guys seen Three Body Problem?
I was literally going to bring that up in the Dark Forest hypothesis. The show sucks ass. The book
I
series
have
is
not
so
seen
much
the
better.
show.
Okay, well, I definitely need to I definitely need to read the books, because I've only seen uh the first season of the show, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. So that must mean the books are fantastic then.
They're in my opinion. I mean, I don't know. I read the books like a few years before the uh, show was announced and came out and stuff, and I was like really excited about seeing it on the big screen. So I guess I'm just a little salty. But yeah, the concepts at the end of the day are what really matter. And yeah, Cixin Liu, I don't know how to say his name, but the Chinese guy who wrote it, he knocked that thing out of the park. Uh, do you know about the Black Forest hypothesis, Karina?
I don't. I haven't seen the show or read the books, so I will need to be enlightened.
Do you think you can explain it very well, Nate? Or
No, I think you're much more familiar with it than I am.
all right, I do have the brain of a goldfish though, so I'm gonna have to read it. The Black Forest hypothesis is the conjecture that many alien civilizations exist throughout the universe, but they are both silent and hostile, maintaining their undetectability for fear of being destroyed by another hostile and undetected civilization. Uh, is one of the or many possible explanations of the Fermi paradox, which contrasts the lack of contact with alien life with the potential for such contact. So basically, his reasoning is based off of game theory, where the reason why we don't hear anything is because those that do make noise out there in the universe get destroyed quickly, because in the universe where the speed of light is king, uh, you really have no, like, it's the first shooter's advantage. So you can either wait for the other person to shoot a gun or not to shoot a gun, or you can guarantee the continuation of your civilization with, a first shot and just destroy them and not have to worry about it.
I will say I feel like that sentiment is not acutely uh, delivered through the show.
Oh, yeah, it will be.
It will be. What do you mean? I
It
like.
will be.
I just
You
okay.
have no idea.
Um. So I should just read the books then, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, because I do think they did a pretty good job of bringing the events of the show, or the books into the show. But uh, if you want to get the whole thing, then you're gonna have to wait, however long it's gonna take for them to do it. And I mean, hopefully they keep up the track record of putting all the plot into the show. But uh, yeah, I wonder how they're going to execute it, because there is some wild stuff in the next two books, because it's a trilogy.
I feel like, uh, I guess, kind of on the opposite end of the way to think about that, in a more lighthearted way. I don't know if either of you have ever heard people talk about like Earth being space Australia, and that's why we haven't ever had any contact with anybody. Have you guys heard that be
No.
thrown around? So,
No, like,
like,
so it's just a desert or what?
Oh no, but like in the way that most of us who are not Australian feel about Australia, where we're like, why does anybody live there? It's insanely dangerous and like everything will try to kill you. And it's just wild and unhinged in so many ways. Like that's how non-Australians feel about Australia. And that people have been like, well, what if that's how the rest of the universe feels about Earth? Where they're like, why would we go there? Like they're just insane and dangerous and we have no use for them. We have no reason to visit. Like we would just rather not even get involved.
Imagine
Which
if all
I
those
mean,
alien races went to Australia proper. They'd be absolutely blown away.
I know.
This is the
But it
Australia
does
of
always make me
Australia.
laugh. Yeah.
I feel like that might explain why we don't have any like visitors that we know of. But why don't we see any signs, out and about?
Well, we might. I mean, there's lots of unexplained stuff, all the things that people are like, yeah, that we're picking up weird sounds coming out of space and stuff like that, but what do we do with that? We don't. I feel like if you start looking for that stuff, there's a lot of interesting unexplained things that kind of
Yeah,
are
like
like
a wow signal.
could be potentially evidence. Or even like if you want to think about, if you want to get really like conspiratorial, all of the people that think that like aliens have visited a long time ago, and that's where some of the kind of seemingly out of place levels of technology and construction and such from ancient civilizations comes from, and that then they left and they haven't ever come back, but that they've been here before. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of theories that
is there something that's been created by ancient civilizations that we genuinely can't rationalize, or is it just that we're not giving them enough credit?
Well, I think the Great Pyramids are pretty crazy.
there's definitely some things that I've read that it's not that we're like, oh, we have no idea how you could do this at all. But I know there are some things, especially when it comes to construction, that it's like the level of precision is a level that would be hard to do with our modern tools. So like the Great Pyramids are an example of that. There's another thing I was watching something from ancient Egypt where they had cut like a hole in a stone for something, a pretty large one. And basically, like the people who had analyzed it had been like, this honestly looks like it has been done with a laser. Like, that's what it looks like if we compare it to what we do with current technology. So there's things like that where I don't know that it's necessarily that we're like, it's impossible for them to have done it, but it raises a lot of questions because then we have a hard time finding evidence for where are the tools they used, where are the methods they used, why don't we have other records of these things, but we clearly see that the thing got constructed or the thing got cut or whatever, but we just are having a hard time reconciling like what we found for their technology and their records with what they actually built. Which I'm all for giving ancient civilizations a lot of credit, because I do think they were far more intelligent and advanced than we like to think of them as. But it is still interesting when there's things where it's like, this would be really difficult to do with modern technology, computers, lasers, whatever. How was somebody doing this 6,000 or 7,000 years ago?
Well, isn't it also kind of the thing that like the more tools we invent and the more advanced things become, you start to forget the fundamentals and the basics, you know? And so it's like, I kind of wonder, it's like, could we ever get to the point where like there's only a handful of people that still like, I don't know, actually know how the properties of electricity and how it functions, because we've already like, there's so much like on the front end that you have to learn to even get into something that it's so streamlined that like, do we ever get to a point where like we've like lost the fundamental, we don't like, nobody like understands the fundamental qualities of how things work anymore. We're just using the machines, And so it's like,
I think you already see some of that.
Like what?
Like, I mean, not on a really extreme scale that I'm aware of, but it's gonna sound kind of silly, but even in just like computer use and like technology use, I feel like there's actually a very, outside of people who do it for a living, and who like went out of their way to study it, get a degree, whatever, get certified, actually learn it inside out. Um, that there's a pretty small group of people that actually know how to do a lot of things with like even just basic like troubleshooting things on computers, because you've got the generations that were older when that stuff kind of came into uh, widespread use, where it wasn't, where it was like available to the general public. And so if they were kind of above a certain age, a lot of them just weren't really interested in learning how to use it, which is why all of our grandparents like have struggled to send an email and stuff. And then you've got a generation or so that was at the right age to be learning those things and to care how to do it, and where the technology wasn't quite user friendly enough, where you didn't have to know things, where you didn't have to know how to troubleshoot and figure some things out on your own, and like where to look and how things operated a little bit. And then you get to like now the kids that are quite a bit younger than us that have had these things their whole life, and they've become so user friendly that now you're back to like, I've seen people making the joke that like, it used to be that we would just complain about, older generations like boomers, they don't know how to like rotate a PDF. But now people are seeing the same issues in kids that are like, middle schoolers and high schoolers today, where they also don't know how to do those things because they've never had to learn them, and where there's so many things that are almost too user friendly, where you don't have to have any kind of knowledge on the back end of how anything operates or connects. Or so I think there's probably already a little bit of that happening, and maybe it's not happening in the way that like, oh no, we forgot how electricity works. But I think it's interesting because you are seeing that, where like some of these things that used to be kind of, you had to kind of know how to do them a little bit when we were kids, are going away already. Hopefully you're following what I'm saying.
I think you're giving us more credit. I feel like the cutoff was before us. Like,
maybe
thinking about technology and stuff, like thinking about how microprocessors work and all of that. It's like, it would take me years of actually studying to actually have a working knowledge enough about microprocessors that I could, like, if I was the last person on Earth, I could keep things going. I could troubleshoot major issues. I could keep things running. It's like, it would take me, from where I am now, it would take me years of dedicating myself to that to understand it on the level that I would need to, because we've layered so much on top of it, right? Because we keep advancing. So it's like, fast forward 1,000 years, think of all the layering that's coming, and it's just like, that's an impossible chasm to breach, right?
Well, that's what humans have always done, though, right? Like we specialize in something, and then we come together and work together, and using, language, we can communicate what we need to be done. This is the stuff I understand, and I don't understand what your thing is about, but I do know that uh, us working together, we can create something new or good off this. Like, you can understand like the binary and the architecture of a microchip, but are you gonna understand like the app layer, or the user interface, like the actual coding of the product? Yeah, I don't know. I think that this has been a problem. This is just how it's always been. Like, uh, the carpenter can know everything that there is about wood, but or how to make the tools, but he isn't gonna know anything about building the building that he works inside of.
I guess what I'm thinking
I
is like,
think
what if people lose interest? Like, what if there aren't people that continuously want to keep going in and supporting, coding and things on the, data infrastructure level? Like, what if people just slowly stopped caring about that and stopped? I mean, I know things change, right? And technology changes, and it changes rapidly, and it's hard to comprehend it, but eventually our technology won't be based on something so primitive as binary and that kind of data communication, I guess. So maybe that's more what it is that technology advances, and then there's some sort of like big shift to where we're no longer doing anything we just were, but we spring to something else,
Have you guys heard of vibe coding? vibe coding.
Enlighten
That
me.
sounds fake.
So it's this new
Vibe
thing that
coding.
it's this new thing that a lot of people are doing, especially the people who are not very good at code. Well, just anybody who's trying to code, really. Um, where you just prompt an AI and tell it what you want, and then you plug that into your code, and it just does everything for you. So you don't even have to do the grunt work, essentially. Um, and a lot of people are worried about the fact that yeah, we're going to lose some of these skills or just become a lot less proficient in them because we're just using. I mean, like muscles will atrophy, so if we're not doing it, then we're just not going to be as good.
Right, and
My
so
guess
it's
would
like
be
if people are always using AI to code, for example, and so like that becomes the norm, and then it's like, oh, AI, whatever, stopped working, and so it's like, oh shit, nobody on the planet knows how to actually code anymore. So I guess like what we have to go peruse internet archives and like there's a generation that has to relearn something, you know?
I think too
Yeah.
you might see it turn into something that, which it sounds silly to compare something like computer coding to like trade skills, but I think you might see that start to happen because I know that there's already you see that in a lot of different fields where people have been very intentional about we need to keep this skill set alive, because yes, otherwise it's not being used often enough for it to just be common knowledge anymore or something that somebody would kind of understand already. So whether that's like woodworking or leatherworking or any kind of maybe more technical skills, um, but sometimes just very basic things where it's like we have to be intentional about having there be instructors for this, getting people to enroll in these programs and learn how to do these things so we can hold on to that knowledge, because yeah, otherwise it's just going to be in a book somewhere or in a YouTube video somewhere, and nobody will have the hands-on experience of actually having done it. They're going to have to try and teach themselves from scratch. So you might see things like coding also start to fall into that category if it's primarily being done by AI programs, where it'll almost become like its own version of a trade where it is a very specific skill set. And yeah, you do have to be taught it, you have to practice it, and you could technically teach yourself to do something like that by just looking at internet archives or watching a YouTube video or something. But it's going to be a lot more effective if somebody is actually working with you as an instructor and can give you feedback. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of those even feel things that feel like really modern tech things go that direction as well, just for the sake of holding on to that knowledge that's active in somebody's brain instead of it being like, it's in a book somewhere. We could find it if we really needed to.
For like every so if you take like a subject and you study it, and then there's always something deeper you can get into. Or like as a historian, you can be an expert in a country, but then like you could just keep on splitting it down
Mm-hmm.
until you're like, I'm an expert in this 1 square mile radius. I know everything that's ever happened here, all this kind of stuff. And there's probably only like one or two people who are a true expert, in that way, and that whether it's that history or yeah, working with some particular type of metal or something like that. And once they die, that's gonna be gone.
Well, I guess that's why like written language was so important, right? Like that was an enormous shift in civilizations to where like it wasn't just like passed down orally anymore. It's like now you can you can uh upload something to a physical medium that someone in the future can download and benefit from it instead of it being passed down and changed over time because there's not a concrete record of it, right?
Well, I feel
Yeah,
like
I think
so.
like. Oh, go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Aaron.
Well, this is just
All
Go
right,
ahead.
awkward.
so I think that if you look at the trajectory of humanity and the way that we uh, not just pass down knowledge, but uh, keep it and store it. Like there's some clear trends, you know what I mean? And I think that where we're going is eventually we're not going to be able to keep up, especially now with AI. Like if all the AI optimists are correct, then and we get something that can improve upon itself and do it much faster than we can, eventually it's going to create something that's even better than binary, or it'll be using quantum computers, and it's just going to exponentially advance just past the point to where we can't even, like, it's like a dog trying to comprehend how a car works, or an ant even. And yeah, I don't know what my point is, but I think that this is just this is what we do. This is what we've always, it's almost like it's ingrained in our soul that we have to advance, and in order to do that, we have to find bigger and better ways to compress knowledge and more efficiently. Like, how long does it take for a person to orally state something compared to, somebody reading? And then how long does it take for somebody to read compared to a computer going through code or words,
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so going back a little bit in our conversation, though, I think it's something you could see as well. I mean, maybe not on like a catastrophic scale, I guess, like, oh, we've completely lost the ability to keep anything, like any of our infrastructure running or maintain life in, in the way that we know it. But you think about, like, as you're talking about storing records, and like this has been something we've always done, you think about like losing the Library of Alexandria, and I think that probably had a massive impact on like like I think there probably are a lot of things, like kind of going way back in our conversation to talking about what ancient civilizations were doing. My guess was a lot of that stuff was kept in records and we lost it,
For sure.
because those, like, those things obviously were hard. A lot of them were in things that were flammable, and then you burn down a library that's holding all of that stuff and it's gone. And if some of that was already 1,000 years old, like, you don't have people that were around that could be like, oh yeah, it's okay, I could just rewrite that book for you, I know what was in it. So I think you see that evidence there of like, yeah, our records are important, but you have to be, there's still always the chance you could lose the records too. And then you'd still be back to this situation where you're like, oh, we kind of only know what we're currently doing and we don't have this previous information, and we may not have access to anybody who is able to relearn or reteach it. And then also I think you look at like kind of a different situation, but you look at the Dark Ages when the Roman Empire left Europe and took with them all of the stuff that they were doing, which was pretty advanced and like very had very much improved upon the way of life for, and modernized it. And then they took all of that with them, and then you left people that no longer had the means or the knowledge to continue those things, and so they fell into disrepair, and eventually they fall out of consciousness. And then eventually, like, obviously we come back around to relearning those things, and then again being able to move forward. But yeah, you see that, like, that's why they're the Dark Ages, is because everything regressed pretty dramatically in a lot of ways, and you didn't have enough people in society who had the education or the means to continue society in the way that it had been. And so I think that you see those already in our history, at least a couple of instances we're aware of. And with like you're talking about, all of the layers that are now built upon our technology and how much more complex it is kind of scary to think about, if we do lose those, how much more of a dark age could we be thrust into if we legitimately lose our ability to understand how these things work or to continue replicating them, and it takes a couple hundred years for people to redevelop those skills.
Makes you wonder if we've been here before.
Well, I mean, that's that's like what Karina was saying earlier, though. It's like, if we have been here before, where is the proof? You know, like it seems like there should be some sort of proof.
Well, like what?
Any kind of relics. I
Because I
mean,
mean,
think about all the stuff that we would leave behind.
well, how long until all that's gone? Buried or I don't want to say decomposed because that's not the right word, but you know what I mean? Like just driven to dust. How long until, if we're talking over the scale of like a couple thousand years or tens of thousands of years, I don't think very much of our modern infrastructure would be around.
Sure, but I guess what is humanity doing in that layover period?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends. Like, let's say an asteroid hit, you know,
Uh huh.
and it's in the ocean or some shit, like, uh, and just causes catastrophic impacts to the environment and all that kind of stuff, like just heavy torrential rains, which I know a thing or two about now. Uh,
Local expert.
um, and yeah, I think that we take for granted this calm period that we've had for the last 12,000 years. A lot of stuff can happen, and I don't think that we're as robust as we like to think we are. I think the most telling thing is that we don't have any satellites still, like any artificial that we know of. I don't know how hard it is for them to see really small things that are orbiting Earth and how far or how
Hmm.
close they have to be for us to even notice. But yeah, I don't think any ancient civilizations have left that kind of thing, which to me that would be the most clear indication because it's space and it's not being affected by anything that's happening on Earth.
But do you still think that there's a possibility that previous civilizations were advanced, if not advanced enough to, put things into space, but much more advanced than we have proof of, and yet it was somehow eradicated and like pretty completely, and yet humanity still survived and got to the point where we are
Well, yeah,
now?
so like let's consider what would happen if today like 99.99% of humanity was destroyed and like driven into caves and uh, shelters and whatnot. Like how much of modern day technology would we be able to replicate once we were able to come back out onto the surface? I don't like. I think we would be basically starting from scratch once again. And if we're talking about over the course of a couple hundred years, like there's just a lot of stuff that would be forgotten because whoever's an expert in electricity or nuclear physics or whatever, they can pass down as much as they can to some kid who's never even seen the things that he might as well be speaking of magic as far as the kid is concerned.
Hmm.
Like I can see that happening. I mean, there's all sorts of like weird like stories in ancient texts and whatnot about well, what's that Hindu book? It's like the Bhagavad Gita or something like that, where uh, they're talking about Vishnu raising its multi-armed form and then like causing explosions or something like that, and like birds fall dead in the air. The food is tainted. What else? People's clothes are burning. Like it essentially kind of sounds like a nuclear blast. Um,
Hmm.
it's just weird stuff like that where you're like, that seems awfully specific. How'd they
Hmm.
come up with that? Text that's, thousands and thousands of years old, where, as far as we know, at that time they were hunter-gatherers, according to, like, because the text is depicting something that happened thousands of years before it was actually written.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Could be just crazy imagination. I don't know.
I don't know
I'm dumb as
either.
hell.
Like we saw a lot of that not that long ago with, relatively not that long ago with like, Greek and Roman mythology and Egyptian mythology, where they're taking natural phenomena and just ascribing that to deities and creating, stories around it as explanations for it, which nowadays we're like, okay, well, that's just how they rationalized it, right? So I'm not sure. I don't know what you're referring to specifically, and I would be interested to see it. But at this point, at this juncture, I don't see how it's different.
Yeah, I'd have to send it to you guys. It is pretty interesting, but yeah, once again, I'm like, that's cool. I don't know whether that's just some guy that's super imaginative and is like, yeah, Apollo is the reason why that the sun streaks across the sky every day. He's pulling it with his chariot.
Yeah, what did that guy
Obviously.
see to think that?
Yeah.
Was it a spaceship? All right. If unless anyone has any more comments about the swarm, I guess. I mean, you'd kind of be changing subjects if you did at this point. Uh, I guess we should move on to Aaron's episode.
I'm a little curious about what he meant by like, I accept your challenge.
Well, I think it's that
Like,
like
yeah, let's
he.
get it on. Let's make some bug babies. What the hell?
I think it's kind of
No,
what
that's
his
not what he meant.
perspective.
Yeah,
His
I
his
know. I
perspective,
know.
right, is that like he can't do anything in
Humans
his
will,
position, but humans are going to defy this. Like they're not going to
right.
succumb like previous races have.
We will not go quietly into that dark night.
Yeah. But I will make bug babies with you.
Yeah, well, I mean, he is a man after all, so.
Hot
Okay,
take.
yeah. Um, ooh, I also love the bit where like she comes to consciousness for a second, and
Oh, that was creepy.
yeah, I love it.
She's still fighting,
Uh,
which maybe gives some lends some credence to what he's saying, that like she's still like her humanity is still pushing back against the thing taking over her body. I don't know.
yeah, I think that's what gave him like his resolve to cast the challenge was because I feel like I don't know. At least I interpreted that he was pretty hopeless at that moment when he's staring at this, brain the size of a huge building. Um, but then he sees her fight back for a moment, and he's like, "Yeah, humans are pretty cool."
Well, I saw it more as that giant brain was intentionally relinquishing control momentarily so that he could see the suffering she was going through and to see that that was essentially his other option if he didn't comply.
Damn. Yeah, maybe he was in the driver's seat the whole time.
Yeah. But who knows?
So the one that I picked, I already forgot the name.
In
In
vaulted halls, entombed.
Yeah.
Yes, pretty badass. Um, so the story takes place in the mountains of Afghanistan, and you have some sort of like Delta Force ass unit of soldiers who are there to rescue a hostage. Um, and so they're scoping these guys out as the insurgents and the hostage go into a cave. They relay back to command that they're gonna, go in that cave and continue on with the mission. And shortly after going to the cave, they start discovering some peculiar things like glowing goo on the walls, and they soon find the two insurgents and the hostage reduced to just blood and bone. Just shortly after they'd just seen them, so they're all super confused. And then they hear gunshots off in the tunnel, off in the distance, and for some reason they decide to explore. The captain says something about like we still have a mission to continue, and one of the guys is like, the hostage is the mission. We should get out of here. Which I don't know why
That
he decides to
tracks.
continue on, but he does. And as they're going, they discover these little tiny spiders that are alien, and they have big ass mouths, and uh, they discover basically how the other people were reduced to blood and bone because these things just tear through them like little piranhas, land piranhas. And so they start running away. It's a tunnel system and super complicated, so they end up somehow taking a wrong turn, and uh, only two of them, or no, only three of them make it out into this big ass open area. and they talk for a minute, and then they look around and realize that, oh, the bugs haven't followed us, and they were like maybe guarding something, and they look around and realize that this gigantic ass room is completely alien to them. Um, they're no longer in like some sort of cave. It's a very sophisticated looking room, I guess. But they
A
see
vaulted hall.
a vaulted hall. Thank you. I couldn't think of a proper way to mention it. Even that feels like it doesn't do it justice. Um, but they see a tunnel opening way off on the other side of this thing, probably like a mile away, and so they decide that they're going to go to that. And as they do, uh, some bigger like insect-looking things start coming out of the hole and chasing them. One of the three die, and the other two just keep on running. And for some reason, the things stop chasing them once more, almost as if they're like scared of whatever's beyond uh, this door that they've come across. And they start hearing some chanting, the two of them, and uh, the guy feels compelled to go follow it. The lady's like, "Yo, we shouldn't do that. What are you doing?" And she follows him because that's her captain. And they find uh, some eldritch beast, kind of Cthulhu vibes, and the thing basically drives them both insane by just looking at them and screaming in their ears. Gives them visions of the planet burning and all sorts of hell that it would unleash if it were released, and it just starts moaning into their ears, release me," over and over again. The guy goes insane. He tries to chuck a grenade inside the chains to break open or break this guy out, but she says nah and tries to stop him. She ends up having to shoot him, and then the episode ends with her trying to dump an entire clip into this monster thing that just drove her and her captain Loki insane. And somehow she gets out of the caves, and it shows her walking across the Afghani landscape with a bloody knife, and she had gouged out her eyes and cut off her ears, and that's how it ends.
Presumably because that was the only way to stop herself from being brainwashed.
Yeah, and even then, she's like mumbling some alien
Mm-hmm.
language as she's walking. So I mean, like, I don't know what she was doing by cutting off her eyes and ears, what sort of relief it brought her, but it was kind of clear that she was not
She'll never be the same again, that's for
intact.
sure.
Yeah.
Mentally
I
or
don't think there
physically.
was right. I don't think there was any sort of a deeper meaning. I mean, I'm sure someone could glean something from the story, but to me, the reason why I picked it is just because I love like uh, H.P. Lovecraftian horror stuff, like the Eldritch fear of the unknown and all that kind of stuff. And so yeah, like seeing modern day soldiers go up against some ancient god that's being guarded by what I would think like the creatures are probably the good guys because they are there to protect,
Right.
uh,
Yeah.
to guard. Yeah, obviously. So yeah, I just thought it was cool.
Well, so Karina will get this reference because I know that she just finished reading this book, but to me this gives off Hyperion vibes. Um,
Hey,
have you read
I
Hyperion,
love
Aaron?
that book series. Yeah,
Oh, hell yeah.
Nice.
It's the first book
it's
is
the one with the thorny robot and all that.
The Shrike.
He's all silver. Yeah, Shrike.
yeah. That like so the first book, like Hyperion, is like probably in my top 5 books of all time. Like it is like a perfect story in my opinion. Um, but like the Shrike to me, like that's exactly what I was thinking of when I was seeing this, where you have like this kind of ancient beast, which is not what the Shrike is, but it's this ancient beast that is like entrapped and chained, and it's like I almost got the idea that it was
Beyond
kind of
comprehension.
it's beyond comprehension, right? It's like something not of this world, right? And that's so clearly juxtaposed here, where you have like like you said, like a delta force coming in, and it's just like there are two very different worlds clashing here, right? Something familiar and something foreign.
Yeah. It definitely raised questions for me, like, about how did this being, this elder god, whatever, get trapped in this prison to begin with. Like, I like the imagery a lot around it. You don't get a lot of time to look at it, but it is interesting. Like, there's a big statue of kind of a humanoid figure that's
Mm-hmm.
facing where the being is chained up, and um some interesting symbols and stuff. And like, clearly this is a constructed
Prison.
cavern. It's got, prison, well, but I mean, like, all the way around it, like, it's very much like it feels man-made. This is not a
Mm-hmm.
naturally occurring thing. So it's like somebody was intentional about creating this place and then trapping this
Yeah.
this god there. And it's intriguing because it raises so many interesting questions about, like, what happened, that that people even were able to trap this. How did that work? Like, how long has it been here? you know I don't know. I like that. I'm okay with it not answering them, but I like all of the things that it sends my mind down thinking about as I watched the episode.
That's part of the fun of it, is the mystery and not knowing, and yeah, you have to consider and come up with ideas yourself. Because yeah, like who the hell was powerful enough to put this guy in there?
Yeah, it's like, was it trapped by some other ancient supernatural superhuman being, or did ancient people just know the right things to do to trap it, and it's a lost piece of knowledge? Or, and they were like, just, we can't kill it, but we can bury it and hope that nobody ever finds it. It's an interesting, yeah, it poses a lot of interesting, like, what is the history of this version of Earth?
Well, it's very cryptic, but almost kind of in a generic way, where it's like, okay, we have this demonoid creature that's been trapped in a labyrinth, and obviously it's under some sort of like magical binding runage, right? Um,
Runage.
you know what I mean? Like, yeah,
Yeah, no,
runes.
I like that.
Runage.
uh, and so that's actually a very kind of, I almost want to say typical thing, right? Like that isn't necessarily anything new.
No, it's
Yeah, no,
not.
but
It
it's fun.
it's,
Yeah, like, I
it's
think you could
fun though.
probably, in most mythologies, I would assume you can find some kind of story about a god or some other, again, like, foreign, larger than life, not of this world kind of entity that has been trapped or imprisoned for the well-being of everything else. I mean, definitely an obvious one would be, you think about, like, Kronos in Greek mythology. Um,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
but I'm sure there are many other versions of that same story. Um, Clearly, it's just like kind of a fundamentally human idea.
What, like, there's always a bigger fish?
Maybe, I don't even know. Like, I'm just saying, like, I'm not even trying to necessarily read into what it is, but like that idea of there being something that is uh, beyond us, that
Oh yeah, like
wants
larger
to
than
destroy
life.
us, and
Yeah,
that wants to destroy us,
timeless.
and that, yeah, and that we have to trap it, or it means our extinction. Like, it's, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, I'm not even trying to necessarily read into it. I'm sure you probably could, try to analyze the psychology behind it, but I just mean, just the fact that this story, and this, like, almost is like a trope at this point, is so old, that it's like, clearly there's something about just the way the human mind works and has worked for however many thousands and thousands of years, that, like, this is something that keeps popping up in our storytelling.
I wonder why.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, it makes sense, right?
Dun dun
Because
dun.
like now, for example, we have advanced to a point where we understand, why a lot of things happen, and so this discredits, ancient mythologies, right? And their theories about why things were happening. Um, but like obviously they had a stronger connection if you go back thousands of years, people had they were much more connected in a way to spiritual things in some way, right? Like we think of like sorceresses. What's the sorcery? I don't know.
Sorcerer.
I'm trying to do
Just
like the
sorcerers?
female. Well, that's
With
male.
their
I was trying to do the
runage.
female plural of sorcerers. um, sorcerers and witches. But like we always like like with or like some lady with the bones and the runes and like stuff like this, like that connection to like the spiritual realm is such an old idea, right? And so the idea of like gods and demons goes right along with that. And so it's like, yeah, I guess the premise here is like probably thousands of years ago there was some sorceress that trapped and bound this demon down here finally for good, right? And now no one's discovered it until recently.
And it longs to be free.
The ancient ones.
It's just been down there seething with rage. It's got a lot of pent up frustration it needs to let out on the planet.
It's so weird.
Something that it's. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just saying it's weird that the 3 episodes we picked have so many similarities.
Yeah. Um, the something that I was thinking of when I was watching Aaron's episode, even though it's like not, it's not really connected in any kind of real way, but I think something probably between like the imagery of it and the name of the episode, and then um, it made me think of I don't know if you guys have ever listened to the soundtrack for the movie Oblivion, but there's a
Mm-hmm.
song from that soundtrack that's called Temples of Our Gods,
Mm-hmm.
and uh the music of that piece, if you guys ever listen to it, it feels like it would fit nicely over the section where they get into like the actual prison part of the cavern where the actual construction is and where the god is um chained up. But also that I think probably part of it is the title of it. Like it's an interesting it just made me think of it like um the in vaulted halls, entombed, and then temples of our gods. I don't know, they just feel like they kind of come out of the same playbook. I don't know, it made me think of that, even though they're not. Oblivion is not even remotely connected to something like this, but um something about those, like those combination, it just was like huh, and it kind of stuck as something that my brain connected, even though there's not really a good reason to.
Good soundtrack.
Would you say the name of the song was The Temple of Our Gods?
Temples of our gods, yeah.
Yeah, I'll check that out.
It's good
Yeah, if
soundtrack.
you listen to
It's a
it,
terrible movie.
yeah, it is a good soundtrack. Yeah.
Wasn't that bad?
I remember
It has
not
good
even finishing
ideas,
it.
but they're not well executed.
I remember watching it and being like pleasantly, like I didn't have any hopes for it at all, but
I'll
being like
be
pleasantly like, I love sci-fi, so it doesn't take much to, please me.
I'll be honest, but part of what I didn't like about it, well, part of
Tom
what pulled me
Cruise.
out was the fact that it was Tom Cruise and like what Morgan Freeman or something. It was like it's just
Yeah.
like two
Yeah.
stars that feel very out of their element in a sci-fi film like this. And so it's just like I'm watching Tom Cruise and Morgan Freeman, I can't really get engrossed in this.
Feels like it'd be a better book.
For sure.
That's all.
That's what I'm saying. I think the ideas are really cool in that movie. I like the ideas. I just don't know that the execution is great. But the soundtrack is excellent.
Yeah,
But
it is.
specifically that one song, yeah. If like I think if you listen to it, if you listened to that song and like probably played that section of the episode with no sound, I feel like they would match up nicely.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna give that a shot. Um, I was gonna mention something earlier, but I forgot. Oh, so like the idea that like one of the explanations we have for the way that Greeks and Romans and other ancient civilizations came up with answers for like the stars and natural phenomena is that humans like to just try to find they just like to know that it's been explained. They don't really care how, they get to it, just as long as it's explained and we know, how it works. Um, I just, I don't know. I'm skeptical about a lot of uh, a lot of facts, I guess.
Well, that's the thing about
Somewhere in that vein, thing about
science. Like, science is facts, but it's actually not, because science is only right until we learn more and we find out we were wrong. And that's like constant. Like, that's all science is just proving previous science wrong constantly, you know? And so it's like, this is what current science is saying, and so this is true, and we're all following this. And then the next generation of people pursuing science finds out that we were, totally wrong about that. And you learn more and you learn more and you learn more, and you find out a lot of what you thought you understood or knew before was actually incorrect.
yeah, I guess that's was kind of along my point was that like we might have that hang up where we will lie to ourselves and try to come up with an explanation for things. We might have recently have gotten better about that using the scientific process and all that. But at the end of the day, we're still human and we still have these same pitfalls, and we definitely don't know as much as we would like to think we do. And a lot of scientific knowledge, I think, probably has just taken place of the old explanations of how things used to work. Like we just need to delve even more in so that we can learn how wrong we were and just keep on going. There's this quote about uh, when you strike a match in a dark forest or something like that, it just shows you how much you don't know, and then once you make the light brighter, it just shows you how much more bigger it is and how much more you don't know. And so the more light that you have, the more that it shows that you don't know.
Hmm.
And I love that. And I butchered it, but that's fine
But
because
I
I
get,
don't know.
but you can see that, like, especially once people start to be able to explore the universe a little bit, right? Not physically yet, but with cameras and like being able to observe far more than people could even like a few hundred years ago, right? It's like
Yeah.
we are like realizing how expansive it is and how small we are, right? And that's kind of frightening.
Well, I mean, like, how long ago did we think that there was only the Milky Way galaxy? Like, that was the universe, and then we
Hmm.
discovered everything else, and then go before that, and it was, oh, we have the solar system and the stars that we can see, and that's the universe. Pretty cool.
Pretty cool until you think about it a little too much, and then you have an existential crisis.
Yeah, and then you just distract yourself with something that humans have created, and everything's fine.
Yeah,
Drugs.
For example,
that is always an option.
I love me a good rug
Maybe
distraction. Rug salesman, perhaps.
Yeah, and then you go from
what?
looking out. Yeah, wait, what? I was a little too eager to gloss over that. Consciousness is a crazy one. That we just.
Aaron's like, yeah, so anyways, behavioral sciences. What do you guys think about?
Bro,
Not
What do you
even,
think
not
about
even
like
that. Aaron just
moral?
free
wants to
will.
talk about.
What do you think about like does everyone have a moral compass? Um
Is there a soul?
the sun, am I right? Shit.
You guys should do more drugs. You're clearly not on my level,
It's like this
my plane of
podcast is
existence.
it's only 2 hours long, so ethics, right? What do you guys think about ethics?
Oh man.
No, to
I
entertain what you're bringing up a little bit. I think consciousness is a very weird thing if you think about the fact that humans are the only species that have it. That
that we
uh,
know of.
That we're aware of, that we
We
sure,
can
don't even
prove.
know if we have it, like, or what it is. Oh, great. I'm lagging.
Yeah. Yeah, you are.
Yeah, I'm what?
Lagging.
Yeah, you're right. I was gonna accuse you of talking shit. Um, I don't know. We don't know, and that's okay.
It's part of what makes life interesting, right? Is the fact that there are so many unknowns. There's always more things for us to ponder.
What happens when there aren't? Is that when civilization collapses?
That will be the heat death of the universe.
I was gonna say, oh man, you guys need to check out a short story by Isaac Asimov called "The Humanity's Last Question,"
Hmm.
which literally deals with like, yeah, the last question and the heat death of the universe and all that kind of stuff. The ending line is pretty cool.
Don't
Alright,
spoil it.
I'm writing that down.
It's like a 20-minute listen because nobody reads anymore.
Speak for
I do.
yourself.
Yeah, when you read Hyperion, did you listen to it or read it?
No, I
I
pretty
read it.
much only read right now.
Oh
Yeah,
dang,
same.
look
I
at you
like
two.
physical books.
Same, but my brain just can't do it.
You have to retrain yourself, Aaron. I
I do.
promise that your
Yeah, yeah.
brain can do it. You just have to retrain yourself.
That's ancient hidden knowledge that's lost to me, brother.
You get it helps too, I think, like if you find a book that's really good, because then it'll be hard to put down and then that'll make it easier to get back into reading physical books probably because then you'll be like, oh, I already did it with one, like
That's so
it's
true.
not as
Like
difficult.
I go through phases with reading where I'll be like, I won't read for a while, and then I'll stumble upon a book that hooks me, and I'll be like, damn, I forgot how much I like reading. And then I'll go on a bender, and read like a lot of books, but then I'll kind of fall out of it again. So it's kind of this like up and down thing constantly for me.
I do the same thing, but with audiobooks, which is like an inferior way to do it because it's so easy to distract yourself and it's not as, uh, for lack of a better word, intimate
Hmm.
as reading. Yeah, I just need to do it. I was supposed to get a library card like a couple weeks ago, but stuff just keeps on happening. Have you guys listened or have you guys read all the way through Hyperion? I assume you haven't, Karina, but
I have not yet. I am in the middle of reading the second book right now. So I'm definitely going to finish that and then
I finished the first two. I started Endymion, and it just didn't have the magic anymore
it falls
because there were
off.
so many
Yeah.
changes.
So do you feel the same way, Aaron?
Yeah, I actually don't know how far I got in the series. I know I haven't finished it. I need to look at my Audible at some point. I think I got like within a book or two of the end, but like Nate said, it just there's so many changes. It's barely the same story at that point. Who's calling me?
I mean, Dune does the same thing. If you read through all six Dune books, by the time you get to the end, it's like it's not. There's almost nothing the same as there was from the first book.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm definitely going to finish reading The Fall of Hyperion and then I guess, yeah, I will see whether or not I ever pick up Endymion. But I did love the first Hyperion book. I read it so fast I could not put it down, and then I'm really enjoying the second book as well. So at least those two are solid, I guess. And if I have to stop after the second one, that's okay.
Yeah.
Because
Sometimes
at
it's
least Nate
good
was
to have an
telling me that
ending, a nice
feels
ending.
complete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know
Um.
which book it was, but there's a piece in there where one of the characters that's like an AI robot ambassador like goes into the system, into the AI internet, whatever, and has a conversation with basically what is an AI god in their environment. And I love the conversation they have. That's like one of the reasons why I recommend the book series so much to other people. I
I
don't know if you ever got to that part, Nate, or not.
no, I believe that's in the second book. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well,
So
don't
yeah,
spoil anything
first
because
two books. Yeah, no.
um I quit. Like this is off topic of Hyperion, but I'm gonna end our messenger chat. I'm sending you guys a YouTube video. It's kind of a cool one if you're interested in watching it. I've stumbled across it on accident, but it's about like somebody took the time to take all of the locations in like hard sci-fi series and show where they actually are in our actual universe, which is pretty cool.
I love Star Wars. I could just looking at the thumbnail. I love that there's a galaxy off to the side that says Star Wars question mark.
Yeah, well he
Galaxy
starts out by
far,
being
far
like
away.
Star Wars is soft sci-fi. So
Yeah, right. I mean, I don't know if I'd say like some of these are hard sci-fi, like Guardians of the Galaxy and Firefly. Like I don't know about that.
well,
What
they're
is
hard
soft versus
sci-fi
hard?
by his
Oh,
so
I
his
have to
definition is that
go.
soft sci-fi. Oh,
Yeah, I'm getting a call.
All right, well, thanks for
I
listening.
need to answer this. Yeah, it was a good time. See you guys next time. We need to discuss what we're going to cover next. It was a pleasure. I'll send you guys the files later.
Beautiful.
Have a good one.
Beautiful.
all right. Oh my goodness.
Very organic.